Mercedes-Benz C-Class.
The Mercedes-Benz C-Class is a line of compact executive cars produced by Daimler AG. Introduced in 1993 as a replacement for the 190 range, the C-Class was the smallest model in the marque's lineup until the arrival of the A-Class in 1997. The C-Class is built at Mercedes-Benz factories in Sindelfingen and Bremen, Germany, as well as numerous satellite factories in other countries. The first C-Class sedan was produced on June 1, 1993, and the first of the second generation rolled off the assembly line on July 18, 2000. The most recent third generation was launched in 2007. Although originally sold as sedan and station wagon, the W203 series in 2000 debuted a fastback hatchback coupe version that, when facelifted, became the Mercedes-Benz C-Class. The C-Class remained in production until 2011 when it was replaced by a new W204-based C-Class coupe for the 2012 model year.
W202 1993 to 2000.
In October 1986, 3 years into Mercedes-Benz W201, 190's production run, work began on a successor. Design work began in 1987, with the final design by Murat Gunak being selected in 1989 and the production design by Olivier Boulay frozen in January 1990, being later patented on December 19, 1990. Rough prototypes went into testing in 1989, with first production design prototypes commencing testing in 1990. In May 1993, the first-generation W202 C-Class was introduced as a replacement for the 190. The C-Class sedan was the company's entry-level model up until 1997, when Mercedes launched the A-Class. Styling themes were carried over from the previous W201 series, but the new series had a smoother and rounder design than the previous generation of compact Mercedes.
Engines.
On its debut, the C-Class was the only Mercedes model with a complete lineup of multi-valve engines. The new family of four-cylinder petrol units, called M111, debuted in the C180, 1.8L, 122 picoseconds, 90 kilowatts. 120 horsepower, C200, 2.0L, 136 picoseconds, 100 kilowatts. 134 horsepower, and C220, 2.2L, 150 picoseconds, 110 kilowatts. 148 horsepower, the only four-cylinder of the range sold in the US. In 1997 the C220 was replaced by the C230, enlarged to 2.3L displacement but with the same output, although with torque increased to 220 newtons by meter, 162 pounds by foot. The C280 was the high-end model of the class, with a 4-valve per-cylinder straight-six engine, capable of reaching 193 picoseconds, 142 kilowatts. 190 horsepower. Four-cylinder diesel models were equipped with the same OM601 engine of the 190, in the 2.0L and 2.2L versions. Many of these diesel variants were sold as taxis, due to their low fuel consumption and strong reliability. There were also more powerful OM605 5-cylinder engines which were available in naturally aspired, C250D, and turbocharged, C250TD, forms. The turbodiesel was introduced in 1995 and is one of the novelties in the engine range available from this year. The most important was a supercharged version of the M111 straight-four, the C230 compressor, using a Roots-type supercharger to generate 193 picoseconds, 142 kilowatts. 190 horsepower, at 5,300 RPMs, Mercedes-Benz reused supercharger technology after 50 years. Due to the tax law in Italy and Portugal, models in those countries featured a supercharged version of the smaller 2.0L, C200 compressor, which had a similar output to the C230 compressor. The 1997 diesel models featured the OM611, equipped with a common rail direct injection system, co-developed with Bosch. The new model was named C220 CDI, and had an improved output of 30 picoseconds, 22 kilowatts. 30 horsepower, compared with the C220 diesel, better fuel average and lower emissions. Also, the inline-six engines were replaced by a family of V6, the M112. The new engines featured SOHC heads instead of the previous DOHC, 3 valves per cylinder instead of 4, and twin spark plugs. The 4-cylinder C230 was replaced by the C240, 2.4L, and the I6 C280 by the V6 C280. These changes reduced emissions and improved fuel consumption, without sacrificing power. The C280 in fact had a slight 4 picoseconds, 3 kilowatts. 4 horsepower, increase with the change. In the last 4 years of production, the W202 received a few changes in the choices of engine. In 1998, a less powerful version of the 2.2L turbo diesel was added, called C200CDI, which replaced the C220 diesel. In 2000, the C200 compressor's output was cut to 163 picoseconds, 120 kilowatts. 161 horsepower, the C240 displacement was enlarged from 2.4L to 2.6L, but output remained at 170 picoseconds, 130 kilowatts. 170 horsepower, and the C180 got a 2.0L engine.
Transmissions.
The original W201 Baby Benz came standard in Germany with a 5-speed manual transmission. Automatic transmissions were optional. In the United States, automatic transmissions were standard, but individuals had the option of a manual transmission, although few chose the option. At the launch of the official C-Class, all W202 variants were equipped with a 5-speed manual gearbox. The 722.44-speed automatic transmission, also called 4G-tronic, was available as extra cost, standard on the C36 AMG, which U.S. dealers chose to mainly offer on sales lots. In 1996, this old transmission, which was on sale since 1981, was replaced by a 5-speed automatic gearbox, also known as 722.5 or 5G-tronic, which received the manual shifting in 1999, 722.6. In 2000, the T model, the only still on sale, was equipped with a G56 6-speed manual transmission.
Safety.
At the launch, the C-Class had a standard driver airbag, ABS and integrated side impact protection. The front passenger airbag became standard from 1995 onwards, and from the same period traction control, ETS in the 4-cylinder models, combined with limited slip differential, ASD, or ASR in the 6-cylinders models, was available as extra cost. In 1997, ASR became standard in the C280s equipped with the automatic transmission and in the C36 AMG, as ETS in the 4-cylinder models, except for the C180 and the C220 diesel. With the 1997 restyling, ASR became standard in all the models, except in the C180 and C220 diesel. This last model continued to offer ETS available as extra cost. Moreover, front-side airbags and brake assist, BAS, came in the list of standard safety features. The two basic models finally joined ASR in 1998, and, in 1999, the W202 was the first mid-size sedan to offer ESP as standard in all the range.
Crash test ratings. T model.
Mercedes-Benz introduced a station wagon model in 1996, internally designated T model, T for Tourenwagen, touring car. It shared the same trim levels as the sedan, with the exception of the AMG versions. The W202T model was not made available to the North American market, although the W203 version was.
U.S. spec models.
W202S in North America included the C220, later replaced by the C230, C240, C280, both I6 and V6, and the AMG variants. It was launched in the US in November 1993, and unlike models in Europe, featured a third stoplight, no specific trim levels, and side lights at the end of the front turn signals. The top speed was also electronically limited to 130 miles per hour, 210 kilometers per hour, in the US due to tire speed restrictions.
Restyling.
On May 2, 1996, German design patents were filed for updates made to the W202 C-Class. Later on in June 1997, the C-Class was given a small midlife freshening, with new darker rear tail light lenses, new wheel rims as well as subtle interior trim changes, including on the door moldings. The exterior radio antenna was no longer fender-mounted and was integrated into the rear glass. The front and rear bumpers were also reshaped, color-coded side skirts were also fitted. The revised C200 and C230 models were fitted with a supercharger and denoted on the trunk lid as a compressor.
AMG models.
In 1995, the C-Class received its first genuine performance model, the C36 AMG, to counter the new six-cylinder BMW M3. Developed with AMG, the tuning house that had now become a subsidiary of Daimler-Benz, it had racing-tuned suspension, lowered by 25 mm, one in and in the USA, a 4-speed automatic gearbox, followed by a standard 5-speed automatic gearbox. The 3.6L engine had a general output of 280 picoseconds, 206 kilowatts, 276 horsepower, at 5750 rpms and 385 newtons by meter, 284 pounds by foot, at 4000 rpms. AMG later conceded that since the engine was hand-assembled, power outputs could vary slightly from 276 horsepower, 206 kilowatts, to 287 horsepower, 214 kilowatts. The C36 AMG accelerates to 60 miles per hour, 97 kilometers per hour, from a stop in 5.8 seconds, and top speed was electronically limited to 250 kilometers per hour, 155 miles per hour. Unlimited top speed was recorded at 272 kilometers per hour, 169 miles per hour. Only a total of 5,200 C36 AMGs were produced. In late 1997-1998 model year, AMG released a new flagship for the C-Class, the C43 AMG, powered by a 4.3L V8, which could now achieve 310 picoseconds, 228 kilowatts, 306 horsepower, at 5850 rpms, with a torque of 410 newtons by meter, 302 pounds by foot, at 3250 rpms. Unlike the C36, which was in fact a ready-to-sell C280 disassembled for tuning at the AMG factory, the C43 was the first AMG car to be completely assembled at the AMG plant in Affalterbach after the acquisition of AMG by Daimler-Benz in 1998. The C43 AMG can achieve a 0 to 100 km per hour, 0 to 60 miles per hour, time in 5.7 seconds for the saloon version and 5.9 seconds for the estate. The C43 was the first C-Class to be equipped with a Mercedes-Benz V8 engine. Two versions exist, a saloon, chassis W200 2.033 and estate, also called the T version, chassis W200 2.093. The overall body of the C43 AMG estate version has many similarities with the C36 AMG, except for the front and rear bumpers as well as the side body, both of which were redesigned. The black engine cover with the chrome AMG and Mercedes-Benz star logos is also very typical from that period in this market segment. Some differences have been reported between the 1998 and the 2000 versions, such as the ECU software on the 2000 version that seems to provide better gearbox performances and longer life to the gearbox. Also, the 2000 model gives the possibility to up or down lift the steering wheel and has the AMG stamped letters on the brake calipers. The car was manufactured for a little more than 2 years, from the end of 1997 to the spring of 2000 for a total of 4,200 units, 20% of which are estates and 80% saloons, with only 25 C43 vehicles of the 2000 model year imported to the US. The C43 is powered by a tuned version of the 4.3-litre M113 V8 engine originally found on the W210E 430 model. After modifications, this engine delivers 306 picoseconds, 225 kilowatts, 302 horsepower, at 5,850 rpms, up to 410 newtons by meter, 302 pounds by foot, of torque at 3,250 rpms-5,000 rpms, taken at the crank, and up to 241 horsepower, 180 kilowatts, at 6,320 rpms measured at the wheels. According to Mercedes-Benz, the car can reach 155.5 miles per hour, 250.3 kilometers per hour, with electronic speed limitation, and 168 miles per hour, 270 kilometers per hour, without. Transmission is an AMG modified version of the 5-speed automatic gearbox found on 1998 to 2001 29 SL 500. Main modifications were made in order to achieve a crisper and better adapted gearbox to higher RPM upshifts. Also, the braking system has been taken from the W210E 55 AMG.
W203 2000 to 2007.
In 1994, development began on the next C-Class. Design work commenced in mid-1994, with the final design being approved in December 1995 by the Executive Board. Design patents were filed on April 20, 1998 and March 4, 1999. Testing began in 1997, with development concluding in 2000. The second-generation C-Class was introduced in March 2000. The sedan debuted with a range of inline-4 and V6 petrol engines and inline-4 and 5 diesels. Most of the engines were carried over from the W202, but the C320 was exclusive, offering 160 kilowatts, 218 picoseconds. The diesels now featured common rail direct fuel injection and variable geometry turbochargers. 6-speed manual gearboxes were now standard for the entire range, except the C320. Notably, for the first time, the number designations were no longer equivalent to the engine displacement, more specifically in the C200, 1.8-litre, C240, 2.6-litre, and C200 CDI, 2.2-litre. Mercedes-Benz debuted a coupe variant in October 2000, labeled the C-Class Sport Coupe and given the model designation CL203, see below. The third body variant, a station wagon codenamed S203, arrived in 2001. Then in 2002, for the 2003 model year, a new family of supercharged 4-cylinder engines, dubbed M271, debuted for the entire range C-Class range. All of them used the same 1.8-litre engine, with different designations according to horsepower levels, including a version powered by natural gas. The C230 compressor variant sported 142 kilowatts, 190 horsepower. The newer 1.8-litre was less powerful but smoother and more efficient than the older 2.3-litre engine, 141 kilowatts, 192 picoseconds, compared to 142 kilowatts, 193 picoseconds. For the C240 and C320, 4 MATIC four-wheel drive versions were also offered in addition to rear-wheel drive. Along with the C-Class estate wagon, the Sport Coupe was discontinued in Canada and the United States after the 2005 model year. The Sport Coupe continued on sale in other markets until 2008. From October 2000 until 2007, a total of 230,000 Sport Coupe were built in the Bremen factory and in Brazil. As of September 20, 2006, over 2 million C-Class vehicles, including sedan, station wagon and Sport Coupe, had been sold since March 2000, with 1.4 million sedans since May 2000, 330,000 wagons since spring 2001, 283,000 sports coupés since spring 2001. Over 30% of total sales occurred in Germany, and over 20% in the United States. The last W203 C-Class sedan was produced on December 14, 2006 at the Sindelfingen plant.
C32.
After the performance of the AMG models in the previous generation, Mercedes-Benz attempted to increase sales among high-end buyers by introducing two different AMG versions in the new model, also in 2001. The C32 AMG scaled back down to a 3.2-litre V6 engine, to match the E46 M3 displacement and improve weight distribution, but it required a twin-screw-type supercharger, manufactured by IHI, to reach 260 kilowatts, 354 picoseconds, and 450 newtons by meter, 332 pounds by foot. Like its predecessors, it used a 5-speed automatic, helping it to complete a 0 to 100 km per hour, 0 to 62 miles per hour, sprint within 5.2 seconds. The C32 AMG Sport Coupe was only offered by request as an AMG studio order. This car was produced only in 2003 and the production numbers are unknown. The C32 was mainly sold as a sedan. However, a limited run of C32 station wagons were made for some markets.
C30 CDI.
Another version was the C30 CDI AMG, using a 3.0-litre 5-cylinder diesel engine, capable of 170 kilowatts, 231 picoseconds, and 540 newtons by meter, 398 pounds by foot. Both were available in all three body styles, but the diesel model did not reach sales expectations and was retired in 2004. The car's exterior resembled that of the C32 AMG. This was the only diesel AMG produced.
C55.
Along with the mid-generation refresh of the C-Class in 2005, the C32 AMG was also replaced, giving way to a new 5.4-litre naturally aspirated V8-powered C55 AMG. This was an evolution of the V8 engine found in the previous E-Class, with power raised to 270 kilowatts, 367 picoseconds, and torque climbing to 510 newtons by meter, 376 pounds by foot. The C55 AMG uses a V8 from the same engine family as the W202 generation C43 AMG. Though maximum speed is still limited to 250 km per hour, 155 miles per hour, the 0 to 100 km per hour, 0 to 62 miles per hour, time has dropped to 4.7 seconds. Unlike the less powerful V6s and the rest of the Mercedes-Benz lineup, the C55 AMG continued to use the 5-speed automatic with AMG speed shift. The C55 shares its longer front-end design with the CLK55 AMG to accommodate the large 5.4-litre engine. The C55 AMG is the only AMG model to feature different structure than its base Mercedes platform. The C55 was the first AMG C-Class to feature quad exhaust outlets and an external differential cooler. The Nürburgring Nordlift lap time seen on list of Nürburgring Nordlift lap times for the C55 AMG is 8:22 compared to 8:37 for the C32 AMG, mainly due to the revised suspension and extra torque. The C55 was mainly sold as a sedan, with a portion of wagons being sold in European markets. Typical of AMG cars during this time period, the C32 and C55 are rare cars. For example, for every C32 sold, about 10 BMW M3s were sold.
Facelift.
The C-Class was refreshed in early 2004. In North America, the refresh took effect for the 2005 model year. The interior styling was changed in all three body styles. The instrument cluster was revised to display a set of analog gauges, and the center console and audio systems were revised. A fully integrated iPod connection kit was available, as was a better Bluetooth phone system made optional. For the North American market, C230, The sport package was made standard, which included AMG edition bumpers, side skirts, and a rear spoiler. Several all-new M272 and OM642 V6 engines were introduced later in the year. In North America, the changes took effect for the 2006 model year. The C230, C280, C350 replaced the C240 and C320. The new generation 6-cylinder engines developed substantially more power than the older versions, by as much as 24%, whilst also increasing fuel economy and reducing CO2 emissions. The C230, C280 and C350 developed 150 kilowatts, 204 picoseconds, 170 kilowatts, 231 picoseconds, and 200 kilowatts, 272 picoseconds, respectively. The 3-valve twin-spark design was replaced by a 4-valve design, now with variable valve timing. On the diesel side, Mercedes-Benz released a brand new 3.0-litre V6. Fitted to the C320 CDI, the new diesel cut CO2 emissions and fuel consumption over the old C270 CDI, and increased outputs to 165 kilowatts, 224 picoseconds, and its torque of 510 newtons by meter, 380 pounds-by-foot, made it the world's most powerful diesel at the time. The C220 CDI received a power increase from 105 to 110 kilowatts, 143 to 150 picoseconds. In addition, these engines also received the new 7-speed 7G-tronic automatic transmission.
Coupe. 2000 to 2008, Sport Coupe CL203.
Introduced to Europe in October 2000, the C-Class Sport Coupe, codenamed CL203, was a 3-door hatchback coupe with a fastback profile, based on the regular W203 C-Class range. North American sales began in 2001 for the 2002 model year. While the C-Class sedan and wagon had the traditional Mercedes horizontal bar grille with the hood ornament, the coupe had a star grille front end. The coupe also had a swooping fastback roofline, and a functional rear spoiler at the short rear end that added downforce on the rear tires at high speeds. One exclusive option to the coupe was a panorama sunroof that was intended to make the rear seats feel less cramped. The coupe was 7 inches, 178 mm, shorter overall compared to the sedan, but both share the same wheelbase length. Initial engine options comprised the C180, 139 picoseconds, C220, 143 picoseconds, C200 compressor, and C230 compressor. In 2003, Mercedes-Benz added the C180 compressor, followed by the C200 CGI in 2003, and finally the C160 compressor in 2005. The C230 Sport Coupe was powered by a 2.3-litre supercharged, 4-cylinder motor. It offered 143 kilowatts, 192 horsepower, and 270 newtons by meter, 200 pounds-by-foot, of torque. However, the supercharged inline-4 engine was considered to be coarse and noisy at the high end. While BMW's 3 Series hatchback was criticized as looking like a full-size 3 Series with the rear chopped off, the Sport Coupe's fastback profile was considered a more stylish offshoot of the C-Class sedan. While the C230 base model enabled the automaker to reach a lower price point than existing models sold in North America, some suggested that the hatchback configuration, as liftback is almost never used in North America, and the inexpensive Mercedes moniker would undermine the marque, which was traditionally composed of expensive cars. It also lacked standard leather seats and a CD player, amenities typically expected of German luxury imports, especially a Mercedes. Like the BMW 3 Series hatchback, the Sport Coupe proved unpopular with the younger buyers it was targeted towards, due to high prices compared to the lower entry-level models it was competing against, as well as unfavorable exchange rates. The C230 Sport Coupe and the C320 Sport Coupe were the two most inexpensive models in the US and Canadian C-Class lineup at the time. Mercedes found that the Sport Coupe was a popular first Mercedes for new customers, 40% of whom reportedly returned to buy more expensive models later on.
2008 to 2011, CLC Class CL203.
The Sport Coupe was spun off into its own separate line called the CLC Class in 2008. The car was presented at the 2008 Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week Berlin, which took place from 27 to January 31. The CLC was produced in Brazil at the company's plant in Juiz de Fora, close to the state border with Rio de Janeiro. Although the CLC is still based on the W203 platform, it was facelifted with an updated front and tail inspired by the W204 series C-Class. The refresh reworked the rear and front along with some other refinements and new details. Mercedes claimed around 1,100 components, including a steering system borrowed from the SLK class and a revised suspension. Out of the sheet metal of the CLC class, only the doors and roof were carried over from the Sport Coupe. The interior is still largely similar to the first-generation Sport Coupe, although it did receive the steering wheel from facelifted W219 and an updated optional navigation system. Some auto journalists noted that the improvements were limited in order to differentiate the CLC class and protect the status of the more lucrative marques in the lineup. One reviewer stated the CLC does just about enough to introduce new customers to the world of Mercedes, and that it had the feel of an authentic Mercedes-Benz, which is more than I'd say about the A-Class and B-Class front-wheel drive hatchbacks. Due to the age of the W203 platform which exudes a level of float and wallow not found in the W204 C-Class, the CLC received mixed reviews against sportier rivals such as the BMW 1 Series Coupe, a successful replacement of the 3 Series hatchback. In 2009 the CLC 160 Blue Efficiency was added to the range, and the CLC 230 was rechristened as the CLC 250. Daimler AG decided that the CLC would not continue production. Instead, the W204 C-Class received a traditionally designed coupe added to the lineup for the 2012 model year, coinciding with the facelifted W204 sedan saloon in the fourth quarter of 2011. The 2012 C-Class Coupe is positioned directly against the BMW 3 Series Coupe.
CLC Series engines. W204 2007 to 2014.
Daimler Chrysler introduced a new generation of the C-Class on January 18, 2007 and displayed it in the 2007 Geneva Auto Show. Sales started on March 31, 2007 in almost all European countries. The new vehicle had an extended wheelbase and tracks, a stiffer body shell and a design inspired by the W221 S-Class and some hints from the C219 CLS class. In 2011, the W204 C-Class was facelifted, featuring LED daytime running lights and LED taillights. The interior was significantly reworked to bring its arrangement and quality closer to the W212 E-Class and W221 S-Class. While the W204 sedan was replaced by W205 in 2014, the wagon version will continue to be sold until 2015 until the W205 wagon is available.
W205 2014.
The next generation C-Class was released at the 2014 Detroit Auto Show. The new structure is significantly lighter using aluminum extensively throughout the body, resulting in a 220-pound weight decrease. According to Mercedes-Benz, the structure will be much more rigid than other vehicles in its class. It includes sport and luxury trims with 235 horsepower 2.0-litre turbocharged i4 engine and 329 horsepower 3.0-litre turbocharged V6 engine options. Mercedes all-wheel drive 4MATIC is standard across the initial offering. The car is about 3.7 inches longer and 1.7 inches wider than the W204. The car was officially unveiled on December 16, 2013. W205 production commenced on Tuesday, 4 February 2014 at the Bremen plant. European sales began in March while American sales are scheduled to begin in September. But in mid-2014 have a new engine. The top model is C63 AMG. C63 AMG have a new 6.0 V8 petrol engine and at July 2014 have a sales.
Production and sales.
On December 10, 2009, Daimler announced the production of the C-Class will be concentrated at the Bremen plant with additional production in the United States for the local market.